Welcome to Mr. Chalk's Revision Tips. In this video we will look at plant cells, bacteria cells and specialised cells. The key thing that we need to be aware of is that cells are the building blocks that everything is made from. So, animal cells are cells that we find in animals, in us. They have various organelles that allow them to carry out different processes. They're not very rigid though. Plant cells go to make up plants. The big difference is that they have a cell wall which makes sure that they are a lot more rigid than animal cells, so therefore are a lot stronger. They're also green because they contain chloroplasts, so they can carry out photosynthesis. And bacteria cells, right, so bacteria cells are prokaryotes, which means that they don't have a nucleus. They're a lot smaller than plant and animal cells, and they don't have any of the normal membrane-bound organelles. Animal cells carry out various processes within the body. So, the organelles that you find within animal cells and plant cells. So we start off with the cell membrane. The cell membrane controls what enters and leaves the cell. It's got a nucleus. The nucleus contains the genetic material, so the DNA. So the nucleus, in essence, controls the cell. It is not, and I repeat, is not the brain of the cell. The cytoplasm, so the cytoplasm is the jelly-like stuff in the middle, and it's where chemical reactions take place. We've got the mitochondria. The mitochondria is where cellular respiration takes place, and it's cellular respiration that gives the cell energy to carry things out. And finally, ribosomes. So ribosomes will go and use information from the genes to go and produce proteins. So, two key questions to think about. So, what sort of cell would need lots of mitochondria? So, a sort of cell that would need lots of mitochondria would be a cell that is carrying lots of stuff out or is moving. And why would a cell need lots of ribosomes? So, a cell that is producing a lot of proteins, so for instance a cell that is producing a lot of antibodies, will need a lot of ribosomes. So plant cells, very similar to animal cells, but they do have a few different organelles. So they've got a cell wall. The cell wall is outside of the cell membrane and gives it that solid, rigid structure. It's got a large vacuole. So a vacuole, you find it in the centre of the cell, and it contains sap. Sap is made primarily of water and a few other nutrients. And the most important difference is that they have chloroplasts. So chloroplasts contain chlorophyll, and this carries out photosynthesis. So, some key questions that you might want to think about when looking at plant cells. So, why would cells need lots of chloroplasts? So, a cell near the surface of the leaf that is carrying out lots of photosynthesis would need lots of chloroplasts. Why would cells underground not have any chloroplasts? If there's no light, you can't carry out any photosynthesis, and if you're not carrying out any photosynthesis, then you do not need any chloroplasts. And what are the main differences between plant cells and animal cells? Well, as you can see above, the main differences are that plant cells have a cell wall, a vacuole and chloroplast, which animal cells don't. So, if we consider this question, so the diagram below shows a cell from a leaf, which two parts of the diagram above are not found in a plant cell. So So pause the video, have a think, then go and have a look at the answer. So realistically, you could have any two answers from a plant cell has a chloroplast, a vacuole, or a cell wall. Any two of those would get you the marks. Bacteria cells are called prokaryotes. Prokaryotes are unicellular organisms, so that's organisms that go around just as one cell, that do not have any membrane-bound organelles. So they don't have a nucleus, they don't have any mitochondria, they don't have chloroplasts. The DNA within a prokaryotic cell or a bacterial cell either comes in a circular form, which is called a plasmid, or you just find a ball of delocalized DNA within the middle of the bacteria cell. So, a couple of key questions to think about when looking at prokaryotic cells. So, how do bacteria cells differ from plant and animal cells? The big important thing is that they have no membrane-bound organelles. And what form does DNA take in bacteria cells? The important one to remember is that in bacteria cells you find plasmids. So, if we have a look at this question, so the diagram shows the structure of a bacteria cell. On the diagram, use words that we've already looked at to label structures A, B and C. So pause the video, have a think about it, then go and have a look at the answer. So A is the cell wall, B is the cytoplasm, and C is a plasmid. The first specialised cell that we're going to look at is a sperm cell. So sperm cells are involved in the fertilisation of eggs. They've got a haploid nucleus, which means that it only contains half the number of chromosomes. They've got a tail, which allows it to swim, and they have lots of mitochondria, which provide the energy that allows it to swim. At the very head of the cell, it's got an enzyme called acrosome, which enables it to go and break into an egg cell more easily. So, a couple of key questions to think about would be, why would a sperm cell need lots of mitochondria? They need lots of mitochondria because they need lots of energy. And why do sperm cells only have half the number of chromosomes? They only have half the number of chromosomes because they are going to go and fuse with another cell which will also have half the number of chromosomes. So that will eventually give the cell that they produce a full complement of chromosomes. A question to do with sperm cells would be, cells can be specialised for a particular job. The diagram shows the structure of a human sperm cell. Describe how the long tail and the mitochondria enable it to do this job. So as we've just talked about, the long tail enables it to swim, and the mitochondria provides the energy or releases the energy that is required to give it the energy so it can swim. Nerve cells are long cells that spread throughout the body. They go and they carry nerve impulses around. At either end, they've got lots of branches and extensions which allow them to go and connect with lots of other nerve cells. Villi cells. So villi cells, or microvilli cells, cover the outer membrane of villi, which we find in the digestive system. So villi cells will go and have lots of cilia, so lots of finger-like protrusions, which increase its surface area. Because it's increased its surface area, that makes it more efficient at absorbing nutrients from the digestive system. So like we just said, the villi cells increase the surface area by having lots of these finger-like protrusions that spread out and physically increase the area where diffusion can take place. Goblet cells secrete mucus. They can also go and secrete a variety of other things. You find goblet cells around the body. Goblet cells are specialised because they have lots of ribosomes, and it's the ribosomes that will produce the chemical or the substance that they're secreting. So what is the function of goblet cells? Like we just said, to secrete a range of different substances. And what organelles do they have lots of? They've got lots of ribosomes to enable them to go and produce the substance that they are secreting. So if we look at this question, so diagrams A, B and C show cells from different parts of the human body, all drawn to the same scale. Use the information from the diagram to explain how cell C is adapted for producing a substance. So pause the video, have a think about it, then go and look at the answer. So we can see that it has many ribosomes to produce proteins, many mitochondria which provide energy that will help build proteins within the cell. Muscle cells are long filamentous cells that we find throughout the body. They slide over each other so they can contract and relax, so they can enable muscles to move. They'll have lots of mitochondria because lots of mitochondria will be needed to release energy which enable them to move. Root hair cells you find on the surfaces of roots underground. They have a large surface area to enable them to go and absorb as much water from the soil as possible. So two key things that we might think about is what is the main function of a root hair cell. So like we just said, it's to go and absorb water. And how does the root hair cell increase its surface area? Well, it's got this long finger-like protrusion that will go and spread out into the soil. Xylem cells are found throughout plants. Xylem cells are hollow and they enable water to go and pass through them. And phloem cells are also found throughout the plants. They're formed of what are called sieve plates or phloem sieve elements, and they allow sugar-like substances and amino acids and other things made in photosynthesis to go and move up and down the plant. Thanks for watching.